Hello viewers and listeners, Try Again here. This week's guest is a longtime RC content creator with a wealth of custom RC modding tutorials, build vlogs, flight testing, and blazing fast FPV racing content. He's earned over 5,000 subscribers and counting. Most recently, he joined the Tiny Whoop team and has been dominating in their racing scene. Welcome to the Land Now podcast, Custom FPV.
Yo, we flying through the internet. We got low battery, but we ain't landing yet. Spider sugar, wanting to try. We interview guests while they rip the sky. Drones, jokes, and special guests. Power loops, draw spins, cash and checks. We doing Rubik's cubes like we riding a bike. This is the Land Now podcast, and I'm dropping the mic.
Some grill.
All right, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
What is up? Hey.
Hey.
You interrupted. We were having a conversation behind the green screen.
I always butt in at the wrong time. And at some point, we'll hire somebody to do this, so I don't have to do it. And I'm terrible at it.
You'll hire somebody to do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Land Now podcast, introducing Custom FPV.
We should get
what up?
Custom FPV is here.
Custom FPV is here.
What's
this
up,
is a legend in the game. If you don't know him, he's been doing this for a long time, RC related stuff for a long time. And if you've bought anything from Tiny Whoop in the past few months, you've probably got his sticker on the box and a note from him. So we're super stoked to have him here. Thank you for being here.
I've ate candy.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Damn.
That's right.
I don't know if we can do that through the computer, but imagine it. Yeah.
So yeah, let's.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, how was your flight in?
It was not a flight, actually. It was a drive.
Oh,
it was a drive with all of my possessions.
Oh, yeah.
On myself, 2 days, back from Colorado. For those of you who don't know, I worked at Tiny Whoop with Jesse and Nightwing for the past 3 months. It was an internship-like experience in my final year here at the University of Cincinnati. So I was able to go out there, spend a cool semester out working, and it really wasn't like professional development in that case. It was a lot of just having fun.
Yeah.
But it was, I learned a lot for sure. Learned a lot about how Tiny Whoop works and a lot about the industry, which was really awesome. Just as well as having a bunch of fun and getting a lot of unique Tiny Whoop experiences in with Jesse and Nightwing.
Yeah, I mean it's a super valuable,
man.
Experience, and definitely that's a fun crowd to be a part of.
That's great. Wait. We're not just gonna gloss over the fact that homie drove from Colorado to Cincinnati. That's a journey. I've done that drive.
Uphill both ways in a snowstorm.
I grew up in Michigan. And my dad and I would do this drive from Flint, Michigan to Colorado, and it took 22 hours. Like, we didn't stop. We're just like, let's go. It is no joke. Did you do?
Yeah,
Did you drive by yourself?
So on the way out there, I took my dad with me, and then he flew back. And then on the way home, I was like, "It's time. I got to do this by myself. I got to see it through."
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really glad I did. I had actually FPV Skittles, Nightwing, and I went on a road trip in October from Colorado to Vegas to Sacramento for the West Coast Tiny Whoop Championship. And so I had that was kind of like I had like 7 hours of driving in there. which was at that point the longest time that I'd driven without, like one gas stop. But by myself, Peter and Dan were actually completely passed out in the back of the van because they stayed up all night and got shit faced in Vegas. And so I was responsible for cleaning up and driving through Nevada all the way up to Reno, and then Peter drove the rest of the way to Sacramento. So that was kind of like the warm up. But yeah, the 18-hour trip back.
Experience.
Yeah, was definitely the first day was like, I kind of had the freshness, I was ready to kind of get on with it. But there's something about driving through Kansas. It's just so long, and there's absolutely nothing.
Did you take 70 out? Did you take 70? Yeah, that stretch of 70 where it's literally a straight line. I've driven that highway a ton of times, and it's just like a straight line, and you're like, I'm okay. And then the world starts going.
And nothing changes. It is just Kansas.
Kind of feel like that's like through Indiana too.
Yeah,
no
US
offense.
30.
Yeah, and
US 30 through Indiana is the same way.
But then you make it to St. Louis, and you make the turn up, and it's like a whole new world. And you're like, oh, thank God, turns.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
One thing. Kansas is rough because there's not like any like benchmark, there's not like a landmark that you see. Like once you get into Kansas City, you can be like 3 hours St. Louis, 3 hours Indianapolis, 3 hours. Then I'm actually in Columbus right now, is where my parents live.
Okay, cool.
And so it's kind of just straight shot, literally like 10 minutes from 70s where my off 70. So one big long drive down one big long road, and made it back though, all in one piece. It's kind of the only way it works. I brought my all my 3D printing stuff, and for those of you who don't know, I actually do. I run a little 3D print farm for Jesse and print Whoop storage cases. And so I kind of had a lot of my stuff with that, and had a full carload worth of stuff, not seeing out the back or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was an adventure, and I'm really glad I did it though.
He could definitely see out of the back. It was totally not obstructed in any way.
Pretty much the mirror only,
and
which is the most important part, right?
Perfect view.
All road signs and posted speed limits were followed, and
100%.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So dude, I drive like a grandma. That wouldn't even be a joke for me.
So let's take it back. You've been making videos since you were a teenager, 7-8 years. What got you started in making videos? You kind of started making RC videos in the very beginning. What was your introduction to RC? Is that inherited or just something you found on your own? And then what kind of motivated you to start doing videos?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually my first experience in RC was in RC cars. And it was Christmas of 2008, I believe. And my grandma actually got me and two of my other cousins Traxxas Stampedes. As a gift. It was just a brushed version, nothing crazy. But it was, it was a really good bonding moment between me and my cousins. It was an awesome experience to be able to kind of share that experience with them. We'd modify them together. I would, talk to them about how I crashed into a curb and broke the chassis straight in half and all that. And, beg my dad to take me to the hobby shop and stuff like that. And that was when I was in like third grade, I think. So that was my first introduction into something hobby grade, that is. I think that there's a lot of people that really enjoy playing with toys, playing with a toy RC car, but when you take it to that next level, it becomes more of an experience where you're actually upgrading it and where you're replacing parts, where you're learning how the thing works. And that was something that really captivated me from the beginning. So I ended up just upgrading the hell out of that car, and actually ended up selling it. It was one of those things where you only have so much money to go around, and I wanted to move on to the next next car, and so I sold that, and I ended up getting a low C Mini 8T, and then I ended up getting a Slash 4x4 Platinum. And just kind of started working my way up, but it was a lot of fun. And at that point, both my cousins had kind of gotten out of it, but it was something that I kind of did on my own. And it was fun for me. I really did enjoy it, but it was a lot of just ripping around the cul-de-sac, hitting big jumps and crashing into a million pieces, and having fun.
upgrade it.
Yep, for sure.
So-
So, um,
Yeah, that's sick, dude. I was gonna touch on the hobby grade versus toy grade shit because like not a lot of people realize or like like, oh, I'm into RC stuff, and they think like the bullshit like plastic, not well, I guess a lot of hobby grade shit's plastic too, but like the garbage mass produced stuff that you go buy at a department store or something. They're like, oh, gross, ew, like
the type
ew,
RC,
like yeah, they're like
yeah,
ew. So it's cool. I think it's cool that like you got like early access to like actual like hobby grade like what's the word I'm trying to like hobby grade like
Mhm.
stuff. That's really cool because I
stuff
remember
that's
like
like
Mhm.
actually fast too. Just
Yeah.
like whoa,
yeah, like
there's
actually
power.
fast,
I
and
remember.
you're breaking it and like yeah. When I was a kid, we had like all these crappy little RC cars that we'd literally run them until the battery like caught on fire or stopped working, and then like my dad, like RIP dad, but like he always had RC airplanes and stuff. So it was always like this like, oh man, one day I want to do that. So that's what motivated me. So it's cool that you also got like a early start into
Yeah.
like hobby
yeah.
stuff.
My
Yep, and I would say, kind of touching on that part, I would say I've done a lot of stuff with my dad, but my dad really wasn't kind of into it as much.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Like I said, I'd kind of beg him on the weekends, so take me across town to the hobby shop. And we had one that was like relatively close to where I went to school, and he'd like, okay, I need to buy this new part, take me after school. And there was a saga that happened, and this hobby shop in Columbus, Hurricane Hobbies, ended up closing because
No.
another individual came into Hurricane Hobbies and asked them about their like business practices and stuff and how they run their hobby shop, and then basically ran them out of town when they opened their own hobby shop, Cyclone Hobbies, and that was in a different part of
What?
Columbus.
the name
And it was kind of a it was
They
kind of a
came
scummy
in
thing.
as
If you look it up,
they
they came in and literally
they,
stole the name
they
and the
even use the
business
same name.
practice.
yep.
Oh
That's
wow.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy, but
That's
I was
pretty sick.
really, I
Wow,
was really
that's
tight
such
with
an
the
Ohio thing.
owner of Hurricane Hobbies, or so I thought. I would kind of be a regular in there and ask him all my dumb questions and stuff.
Yeah,
But Cyclone Hobbies, when I started going there for a little bit, that was like kind of towards the end of my RC car career, and just the vibes and the experience of that shop, and especially once I kind of got the context of exactly what happened, was like, ugh, like it just didn't have the same
gross.
home mom and pop feel to the shop.
Yeah.
But it's all
Yeah,
well documented on Facebook. Actually, if you look up
that's
Hurricane Hobbies,
that's
they still
hilarious.
have a Facebook page where they
If
document all the stuff that went down.
That's
Wow.
if you're
That's
watching or
crazy.
listening to this podcast and you are participating in
Let
Facebook,
us know in the comments. Are you
let us
team
know because
Hurricane
I'm
or
not on
team
Facebook.
Cyclone?
Yep, but I
What?
actually I
No,
think that
go ahead.
Cyclone
Go ahead.
actually just might have closed too, and maybe that was because they
Yeah,
weren't getting my
Yeah.
business, and they're
The
never going to get it
correct.
again.
hobby,
Correct.
Correct.
it's
Hobby
really
Town to take over the world.
What's
it's really difficult
Sorry, go ahead.
for
Try again.
it's really difficult for hobby shops to stay open in this economy because if
Yeah.
they're not, I mean, if they're not doing e-commerce, I mean, I had a hobby shop open here, and I even I did a lot of shopping there. I even helped them make some videos to put on their YouTube channel, and they were really nice people. And then eventually they were like, "Oh, we're retiring," and I was like, "Are you retiring or are you not?" They were really nice people, but I mean, there just wasn't the market for them. But what I was trying to say, like forever ago, is like, my dad, he was into the trains. He did model trains, so that was his
Dude,
big
I got an
thing.
ad for model trains
And
today on my Instagram.
and he had
Continue.
like a huge layout. He did it all himself. He had mobile homes where he was like painting the rust underneath the air conditioning units. Like he was crazy with it. And he always
wow.
told me, "Oh, I want to do RC airplanes, but they're so expensive, and you spend so much money and time on them, and then you take them home in a paper bag." That was like his spiel. And last year I built
Not
some
wrong.
flight test planes, and I was thinking to myself, like, God, if he was just here today, like to tell him, like, hey, I built this plane for $40, it would blow his mind. $40 in an hour of my time. So it was kind of like a double-edged thing. Like I felt really cool and accomplished to do something that we had talked about doing and he never got to do, but bittersweet at the same time. But
What?
I see
Yeah.
you got
I
a
want
whole bunch of
I-
airplanes behind you. How was
Yeah, I
the?
was literally gonna ask.
Yeah, we kind of got derailed from that,
What
down a
got
rabbit
so
hole.
what was the train like? So obviously you got into RC airplanes, but
Mm.
what was the transition from cars ultimately to like drone, like FPV drones or tiny whoops
Yeah.
specifically? I guess.
Okay. So essentially, I've been in RC cars a long time. So 2008 to 2017 ish was when I started my YouTube channel, Custom RC Mods, and it was literally because I had this Low C Mini 8T. If you like go all the way back on my channel, my voice is like 3 octaves higher, and I videos are
Hi
super
guys.
low quality or
Hi,
whatever.
welcome to
But
the channel.
yeah, exactly. And basically, I had broken this low C Mini AT over and over and over again, and the low C replacement parts are way harder to come by than the Traxxas replacement parts. Traxxas is just much bigger brand and had more presence in the hobby shops and
Yeah.
even in the
That
online
tracks.
retailers.
Yes.
But yeah, right. But so I ended up actually making custom RC mods to repair this car out of basically sheet aluminum. So I'd like cut out
All
the little
credits.
pieces of the linkages, and I'd make different linkages by drilling holes. And they're very crude mods, but they got the job done, and I was able to kind of actually made the Mini 8T. I couldn't get the diff case anymore that I'd broken in the rear, so I made it front wheel drive.
Oh,
And
cool.
I like made the extended the length of the steering servo arm to get more steering servo throw, and did a few other little mods like that. And that's what started Custom RC Mods, was what I called the YouTube channel. I thought it was really cool. I wanted to share it, and that was the birth of the YouTube channel. But how I got into airplanes is actually kind of funny, because I got into tiny whoops first. I actually got into drones in 2014, roughly.
Okay.
Actually found all the old stuff.
Yeah,
So
show
this was
us.
Oh
what
yeah.
got me into
Is that
drones.
the
This is the
Nano
Blade
QX?
Nano QX. Yep.
Yeah, I remember a flight test video on
2014.
those.
Exactly. Yes, I was a
Sick.
big flight test connoisseur, and it's really funny because it took me a long time to actually get building the flight test planes, but I was a long time viewer of flight test. And the Blade Nano QX, I kind of just ripped it around, had some fun with it. I had the ready to fly with the little toy grade transmitter, and
Uh-huh.
actually, when the tiny whoop craze started, is when I first got a tiny whoop. I had an Inductrix, and I put the camera on it and all that, and got into tiny whoops. So I have some old tiny whoop videos
Sick.
that I did on there, and that was kind of interesting to me. But that was all still with that little toy grade transmitter, and
Yeah.
my buddy actually was into RC planes and into flight test stuff, and his dad was a pilot, or is a pilot, and he got me into RC planes, and I actually, went out and bought a Spectrum DX6E, and it was crazy feeling that actual resolution of a full size radio for the first
Isn't it
time.
nuts?
Is
Isn't it
like
nuts,
I've been
dude?
flying this same beat up Blade MLP transmitter,
Yeah.
piece of junk, and I had finally, made that switch, and I was like, wow, so much control. This
S-
makes
So
using
much,
my tiny whoop way more fun. Yeah.
so precision.
Yep.
Much wow.
I don't know
Yep. But
why.
then this
I don't know why your playlist in the background is playing ads, but apparently this podcast is sponsored by whatever pharmaceuticals they're
Oh
trying to
yeah, hopefully I
advertise
get a
us.
few
What?
cents on the back end of that.
Yeah, I don't know why this never happens
We'll let
before.
you know.
I always put a playlist of our pilots' videos in the background, and for some reason this one has ads. I don't
What are you
know. There
talking
we
about?
go.
That's my medication, man.
Oh,
That's
okay.
my video.
Is that how
No,
you
I'm
is
kidding.
that how
Sponsor.
you got so fast?
Sponsor.
Exactly.
It's funny that you mentioned that you got into drones first and then planes. That's exactly the what I did. But I don't want to. I want to talk more about you, not me. This is the podcast. You are the guest. I am just the butthole that sits here in this corner and says dumb shit.
All good. But this is the drone actually that I first saw when I wanted to get into like mini quads, which this is the Blade
Nice.
or the Immersion RC Vortex 285. And I didn't get it back in like what 2015 or 2016 when it
Yeah,
came out originally, but it was the one that I thought was super cool. This was like the first ever like bind and fly drone that you could ever buy that was like a racing drone per se, and it's cool because it like folds up and it was portable. And if Immersion RC was just kind of emerging on the scene there.
yeah,
And so I saw one of these on RC groups a while back, and I picked it up just for my little museum, my collection. And I'm really happy that I did. But I wanted one of these for the longest time until when I finally had the opportunity to buy one to get into FPV. Actually, it was totally outdated, and I kind of realized that and went a different route. But once I kind of got into planes, there was no room for drones anymore. It was kind of all
for sure.
airplanes or bust. And it was really kind of the flight test. The magic of the flight test planes is that you can have 50 of them and you're at the same cost as
Yeah.
one RC car.
Yep.
All these
For
planes you
sure,
see
yeah.
behind me, don't think that I'm like, super loaded and I'm just, dishing out
Oh
for
yeah, they're
all these airplanes
incredibly
because I'm committed
affordable.
to them. Each one of these has a really shitty Lemon RX DSMX receiver in it with bottom of the barrel electronics off Amazon. And it is an experience that allows you to not only be able to fly one RC plane, but you can fly, you can have a wing, you can have a high wing trainer, you can have a warbird, you can have a
Mhm.
cargo plane. And that was something that was really cool.
Especially
And
Yeah, that's
with
awesome.
swappables, you can have 3 or 4 airframes and just have the same electronics. Like you can move back
mhm,
and forth between them. I've
That's
I've
really cool.
crashed my plane, disintegrated it, and had a new one in 2 hours. So it's like
yep.
it's
And that's the other
a
nice
little bit
thing
of
is
hard
that you
work, but
can.
you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of hard work, but it's all just the Dollar Tree foam board, and you can like I've actually only ever bought two of the kits from Flight Test,
I've
and it's a
even
Edge 540 and a FD Storage. Oh,
I've
that's the
even
F22. Yeah.
I've even got the custom RC mods tape on the leading edge there.
Oh hell yeah,
That's
hell yeah! If
that's
you if
a
you put that tape on the front of the wings, it makes your plane last like at least 5 times as long
you
because
might
that's the.
you might appreciate this too. I built 2 pods. I have another pod that's identical, and the other pod has FPV in it, so I can swap it from
Oh, that's
ILS to
sick.
FPV.
Yeah, I built that F22 a few times. Is that the mini or the full size? I'm not sure.
It's the Mighty Mini, and I'm flying it on a 4S 850. It freaking screams.
Oh man, yeah, no, I always built the larger F22, and I had it on like swinging
Yeah,
like a nine
nerd.
inch
He built
prop.
the bigger one.
Yeah, and it was really slow. Honestly, I didn't really like the full size one. I built it like 3 separate times, and I don't know. It's the prop and slots are so loud.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a Honda Civic. It's like super loud, but it doesn't go very fast.
yeah,
But
exactly.
the FT Goblin goes really fast though.
Hmm.
But this one actually is really fast. But I'm running too heavy of a
I
battery, so
Dude,
it's
I
just
was at home, so I could grab my F22 off the wall and also
yeah.
show you guys my
He's got
cool
like a FM. Is
F22.
it yours an FMS or
No, it's a free wing.
free wing?
This is their
Oh
new
yeah, I think I
70
know which one
millimeter
you're
one.
talking about.
Yeah, he's got his all
Yeah,
set up
I
with.
put it.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm the first one. I don't think anyone's done it. I'm the first one to put FPV and pan. I couldn't fit tilt head tracking, but I got pan head tracking in the cockpit too.
That's awesome. That's
Dude, it's
awesome.
sick. It's fun.
Yeah, but
I,
it kind of all worked out. That the I had this custom RC mods channel, and I was just kind of getting into flying planes. I actually had my very first flight ever on my channel, and it was not very glamorous. It was an FT Sipple Scout, and I had way too high rates, and you can just see the ailerons just going,
yeah.
yeah. And I'm just losing control of it, and then I just go straight into the ground like a 3 feet from myself. I almost hit myself. I had an FPV camera on the back of it, like one of those little tiny whoop cameras.
Mm.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, it was brutal. But that's the beauty of it. Again, you can crash, and yeah, you have a few hours of your time ahead of you, and like $3 or $4 worth of foam, but all the electronics are fine. and you're pretty much chilling if you just rebuild that airframe or even repair it. That's what I kind of tell people is like, yeah, you want to totally rebuild it because it looks like garbage now, but no, just tape it, glue it, add some
Tape
more
it.
foam in places that it's broken because you're gonna crash it again. So
Yeah, if your foam plane doesn't have at least like if it's not at least like 20% like foam glue and like packing tape, you're not flying it.
I
Mhm.
it's really funny because I'm kind of in a similar state. I was doing FPV drones for probably 5 years before I started fixed wings, and I was already like, I already had sponsors and everything for freestyle. And so when I got into the fixed wings, I was like, I have a feeling this is gonna be boring. Like that was kind of my thing. I'm like, it just doesn't, because the stuff I'm doing with a drone is just like really high adrenaline all the time, And so I built the plane, and the first time flying the plane, I felt a totally different type of satisfaction from it. And I like to equate it to like if I want to go out and I just want to fly, and I don't really want to fly for like a video or fly for I just want to chill, then planes are so good for that. And like I go out to my AMA field, and there's a whole bunch of the old guard out there, and they're all just putzing their like gas planes around, and I'm just hanging out with them, shooting the shit and flying my little foamies around. And I can have a great time without feeling like I have to push boundaries or. And so like in the beginning, I really thought I was like, yeah, I'll do it just for the heck of it. And in the end, it was super rewarding. There's nothing like
For sure.
seeing your like when you're flying FPV, you're focused on where you're going constantly. But when you're flying line of sight, you just get to really appreciate your craft in the air. It's like a whole different thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's okay, tiny whoops though. So we
Yeah,
talked about
so
the planes. We talked about the toys, and then we talked about the planes, but now tiny whoop, because you're like a tiny whoop master.
Samurai.
I heard you were a tiny whoop person that does tiny
yeah,
whoop stuff really
sure,
good.
sure, probably, yeah. I guess
As you
so.
can
I guess you could
see
say that.
behind us.
Yeah, we're done watching football highlights now, right?
Yeah, I don't know
No.
why it keeps playing
Are the
ads.
It's all
over?
good. It's all good. The ad revenue's rolling in,
Are the diet pill ads over? Can we watch?
don't know.
We seeing
Yeah,
It just started-
exactly right. But
It just started playing a football game. Like that wasn't even an ad. It was
Yeah.
just a whole football game.
What?
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
but yeah.
Tiny
So
whoop.
so essentially, I was really into airplanes until I left for college, and I don't know what you guys know about college dorms, but they are not friendly to bringing like 30 airplanes with you. And so I wanted to keep doing the RC hobby, and I wanted to kind of get into it. I had a year or two of college where I was kind of just dormant in the RC world. I kind of would come back for Christmas break, and but I just wouldn't I wouldn't fly when I was at school. But my freshman year actually was when I got into FPV freestyle, kind of proper 5-inch stuff. And I started actually buying a lot of 5-inch quads used and kind of buying and selling on RC groups and stuff, and having a lot of experiences with different quads. Just from buying one, fixing it up, selling it for more, recognizing
Yeah.
a good deal, buy low, sell high, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which was a really cool kind of experience. Was into it, but didn't have that kind of drive to keep moving forward. But I kind of stumbled upon Cincinnati and the Cincinnati Quad Racers, which are one of the biggest whoop racing chapters. At least at the time. I'm the leader now, and we've kind of slowed our numbers down a little bit.
Casual. I'm the
But
leader now.
yeah, but
Humble
I
guy,
was
very
I was
humble
able
guy.
to attend a local race, and the local race was actually 5 minutes away from my dorm building in
Oh, wow.
Cincinnati,
Sick.
right down the
Man.
street.
That's
So it
cool.
really worked out, and I was able to kind of get involved, and I started buying like Mobula 6 BNFs, and I actually was just looking through. I have two of the boxes right here of my original two Mobula 6s. I wonder if I have one in here. Nope, it's just a bunch of random parts.
That's
But
every that's
That's
every,
pretty-
that's every BNS
That's pretty
box that I have. It's like
typical.
yeah, I don't even know why I still have
Throwing
them,
apart.
but yeah, I bought like 4 or 5 of these because the internal video transmitters would die after like a few months, or a month or whatever. I'd be training really hard for racing. Once I kind of got into it, it really I got the itch. and I had to scratch it. And the best part about it is that
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
super college friendly. And
Yeah.
I was able to, set up tracks in my apartment, and I actually got my roommate into it for a little bit. And I felt bad for my other roommates because we had all these LED gates and wires and shit everywhere in the apartment, and we were just
That
kind of
sounds like
zooing
so
around
much fun.
people. But it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. But for that first season, I was kind of just racing on a local level, and kind of having fun with it. But there was a point in time, and this was really where I started getting into flying with other people. At this point, my entire RC career had pretty much predominantly been by myself, or maybe with a high school friend or something like that.
Yeah.
But I hadn't had the opportunity to fly with a group of people, and I didn't kind of understand what I was missing out on. And so, if you're watching this right now, the first thing I'd recommend you do if you have never flown with someone before is find your local community and start going to meetups, going to races, even if you don't want to race at all. The just being able to be in that environment and being able to talk and kind of share your passions with other people is such a valuable thing in this hobby. And that was something that really accelerated my whoop racing career, not only because I was racing and because I was enjoying what I was doing, but it's because I was surrounding myself with people that also had that same passion as me.
Yeah, and
Hell yeah.
also connectivity like breeds collaboration, but also competition. So like you've got people that are gonna push you further than you'll ever push yourself. They'll say, "Hey, do that." Every time I'm flying with other people, I'll be like, "Do that." Oh, I don't know. I'm like, "Just do it." And almost every time they end up doing it. And they'll
Yep.
be like, "Duh, thank you for forcing me to power loop that or whatever." And I'm like, "I knew you had it."
Yeah, for sure. My favorite thing is doing like gorilla whoop dares. When you're freestyling or gorilla whooping or something, it's like I was in Boulder, Colorado, with Nightwing and Skittles a few months ago, and we saw like this one overhanging, like grid-like rooftop thing. It was like a rooftop bar with this grid-like ceiling, and we dared everybody to do it. Peter Nightwing almost got his whoop kind of like stuck up there, and he actually flew it back with the camera mount broken off.
Oh,
I don't know exactly
oh,
how he did it, but he couldn't do it, and then Skittles couldn't do it, and I was able to do it.
Hell
But it was
yeah,
just
let's
like
go.
you have a whoop on the line, you have something like that, and that's the other great thing about tiny whoops is that they are so inexpensive compared to everything else
They
in
are.
this hobby, and you can
And they
kind
take a
of
beating. They take an
yep,
absolute
and
That
you
beating.
can
that and you can bring 40 batteries with you, in a Ziploc bag.
yep, you can bring
That's
40
great.
batteries with you in a Ziploc bag. Wait, where is that?
He's like, and to prove a point, here's my Ziploc bag.
Batteries in a
yeah.
Ziploc bag. You've got
This is
batteries
every
in a
single battery
fucking Ziploc
I've
bag.
ever used. Every one of those folded cell 300 milliamp hour batteries. I don't know why I still have them, but I save them as like a ritual now, and I don't know,
If
but
you're
yeah, I
Gonna
if,
have.
if
change your
you're
name to Fire Hazard FPV.
Yep.
if you're listening or watching the podcast, if you're just listening, homie literally has bags full of Ziploc bags full
Completely
of
full,
batteries. That
stretched
was
full.
this podcast. We didn't know this, but prior that's part of the magic of the podcast, and that's fucking hilarious.
So do you? I noticed you said they're all 300. Do you fly like any 75 mils or 85 mils, or do you just stick strictly to the 65s?
I do. I do fly 75 millimeter. I do have an 85 millimeter as well. There's just something about working that tiny whoop that you just get a lot of whoops, and they all start adding up, and you just have way too many of them. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I strictly was doing racing for a little bit, and that was
Yeah,
65
tell us
millimeter
about
open
your
class.
racing.
And that's basically just the main class for tiny whoop racing. If you ever go to a race, I think that if any of you don't have a 65 millimeter 1S whoop, it's one thing that you just kind of $100, slide it in your back pocket, and anytime there's a race or something like that, it's just the easiest and something that you can bring to any race and they'll let you race there. But another thing is I was, right when, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Underground Drone League.
I
But
have,
it
and
is
it's
No,
awesome. It's like spec racing
tell
with whoops.
tell
Yeah.
Tell us
So
about the underground drone
it
league.
is a 75 millimeter spec. So just like I don't know if you heard of Street League or Multi GP
Yeah,
Pro
yeah, yeah.
Spec, or basically DRL, where you have a spec drone, slower, kind of like NASCAR, where everybody's kind of foot to the floor the entire time, and
Yep.
it really those small changes in your build mean so much more. And this is kind of like racing for the common man. No, not everybody is like T Dog or MCK or any of those super fast pilots that go out and run 150 million thousand packs every single day and have
Yeah,
$1
shout out
million
to
worth of sponsorship parts.
shout out to FPV Gaps.
Yeah.
That dude's insane.
Yeah, and I fly with him too at Gap's training grounds most weeks on Fridays, which is here in Columbus,
I
which
know
is cool. But
he's invited me out there, and I'm like, I can't keep up.
hey, that's all good. You should come out sometime, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was actually a lot of the reason that I got faster. We both kind of got into it at the same time, and I've been flying with him weekly for years now. And we've had a lot of competition back and forth. It's been, friendly competition for the most part. And we've had times where he's just, beating me like crazy. And then I've had times where I've beaten him like crazy and stuff like that. And so it's
Hell
just
yeah.
always that kind of back and forth. Of it that he's definitely the one person that I'd say is has pushed me to become faster, not only just because I want to be faster, but because that again, that community aspect of like, oh, what are you changing on your build? Oh, you're raising this motor, you're using these rates, that kind of, you can use other people's experience to your advantage as well. But yeah, so the Underground Drone League, which used to be called the Underground Whoop League, was a spec. Is a spec created by Isaac Pettit, which you guys might know on Facebook. I'm not sure, he's kind of gets around in the Whoop community. But again, 75 millimeter spec, and it's made to be extremely inexpensive. It's made to be very durable, and there's like an actual minimum weight, so you're not going to be like shaving the frames down to get it to the lightest
Dude,
thing
that
possible.
shit is
It's
or desoldering every little fucking
yeah.
thing you can on the
Yep,
PCB.
exactly.
Like,
The
yeah.
UDL racing is so much more fun to watch, in my opinion, because the races are so close. Because all of the quads are spec'd so tight together that it's really the pilot that's doing, it's really like who's getting the cleanest line. And so all the footage I ever see from UDL races are literally just some dude just right up someone's butt the whole race, like trying to overtake him in the turns. And it's so entertaining to watch. And I think they all have to have LEDs on them too.
Yes, yep. They all have to have a certain number of LEDs too, so they have to have this presence in the sky. So it's actually more entertaining to watch from the third person. Like, you don't even need the FPV feeds at all, because you can be like, "Oh yeah, he's in the red drone and they're in the blue drone, and they're
Oh,
battling it out.
cool.
Oh, the green drone just passed them," or something like that.
That's
But
awesome.
again, it's so slow by comparison to open class racing, where you can really follow the action, and it's super kind of easy to see. And everybody is flying at full throttle. So, everybody's pushing it as fast as they can. You can kind of see it in the way they're like muscling it around. And you're like, when you're flying, you just feel like you're pushing it super, super hard to the limit. And it's a really cool feeling, especially when you're able to kind of take a tighter line and get really close to a gate and
Yeah,
make a
it sounds like a
pass or
lot of
something.
fun.
And I think they also
Yeah.
have
That
And
like
sounds
I,
that sounds like super fun.
they also have like a boost feature too, I think, or I've
yep.
seen that where it's like you're
A
flying and then
boost.
yeah, it's like you clean racing or a
Hitting the
time
NOS
after a
button.
certain time, yeah, you like
Hit
your
the
boost
NOS button.
meter like fills up and then you can hit it and
Yep.
it opens up your throttle just a little bit more.
Yeah, that's correct. It's actually a feature that was borrowed from Street League, 7-inch racing. So, and every time you plug the quad in, basically when you boot up, you have 3 boosts, or it can be adjusted. But you have 3 boosts, and when you arm or like in that battery in that race, you can press a boost button 3 times to get 3 faster. You know, you get more power. So,
What?
and
That's so
there's a
sick. I had no
RPM
idea about
limited
that.
firmware. Yeah, so essentially the motors
Huh.
are a lot faster. So it's basically a throttle cap, but it's a
Yeah,
fancy
yeah.
throttle cap that basically uses what is it? Uses bidirectional D shot
Yeah.
to get that RPM filtering and read the RPMs coming from the motor, and then limit it um, at a certain RPM value, and that could be adjusted. So the spec has been like slowing down a little bit just by the software. The actual physical drone isn't changing at all, but every season there's just a little bit of changes, and there's actually firmware that you have to flash in order to be legal for the race, and it has all
That is so
those
cool.
things locked. So
Dude,
essentially,
That's super cool.
yeah,
yeah, dude, I had no idea because I've known about Street League for a while, and those quads are violent sounding, like turning, but I had no idea that there was like a software that they had like were using for like a Mario Kart like boost. That's so sick. Like I had no idea about
Yeah,
that.
that's cool.
I learned something new every day, and today was that
yep.
spec racing has like a little boost thing. That's awesome. That's really
Yeah.
So,
sick.
So, and again, it's a it's one of those things where I would recommend if it's something that remotely interests any pilot, it's $150 whoop, analog, or you could if you have HD0 and you like that, you can go HD0. And it's just one of those things where if you ever have a club that pops up in your local area, it is so much fun just to hang out. I a lot of the clubs, especially out in Colorado, race at bars, and so if that's your thing,
Yeah.
you can kind of get there, hang out. That's
Bar
the best
league.
part about tiny whoop racing is that there's a point where people take it too seriously. It's not
Yeah,
made to be taken too seriously. You got to
yeah.
keep the fun in it, and that's honestly been one of the challenges, especially as I've seen myself get faster and as I've wanted to pursue goals. We're kind of coming up on the main tiny whoop racing season right now. In about a month is Whooptopia, which is the largest race in
Hmm.
the world. 80 pilots in Phoenix. That's in January on MLK weekend. And so there's a lot of pilots that are grinding right now. They're putting a bunch of packs in, and it's really interesting because they just come home from work or whatever, and then they set up a track in their living room and grind. And you not only get to watch how fast they are, but you get to see, oh, this person has a really cool half wall in their living room, and they can do this cool dive over, their whatever, or like the different areas that people practice and how that impacts their flying style and their
Yeah.
speed and all that stuff. And that's something that's really unique about whoop racing, but also you can push yourself really hard because it's not like you're going to slam a 5-inch drone into a big, into something and
Brick
break
wall.
into a million pieces. And it's not inherently dangerous. Again, you don't need to
Yeah.
find a venue somewhere that you're allowed to fly at. You don't need to drag heavy course features out and stake them into the ground or anything like that.
Yeah.
They need a
That's
license.
the beauty of whoop racing for real.
and I want to talk about your trip to Europe.
Yes, yes, that was awesome. And it was
Was that
about
your
a month
first
ago now.
time? Was that your first time out of the country?
No,
Okay.
nope. That was actually my third time going to Europe. I'm very thankful that
Wow.
my parents took me on a few vacations with my
Yeah,
siblings
cool.
in kind of educational trips. Went to Germany and London and all that stuff, and just saw the sights and experienced the culture when I was in high school and stuff. But this was a weekend, and it was really interesting because I go on a lot of weekend whoop race trips. Whether that's to like Tiny Whoop Open, Whooptopia, or any of the other big races that I go to on a yearly basis. But this was interesting because we left on Thursday. Me and Jesse flew out of Denver, and we flew to Munich, and then we flew to Warsaw. And this was for PTW 6, Poland Tiny Whoop 6, and it's the largest Tiny Whoop race in Europe, which is really cool. Just as about 75 pilots, I believe, showed up for the race, which was really cool. But it was awesome because we kind of get there, and one of the pilots from the local club actually picked us up in the airport and drove us an hour and a half to the city where the venue is in, which is a city called Łódź. And that was really cool because, like, imagine, someone else is flying, one of your FPV friends that you've talked to online for X amount of time, is driving in. Are you gonna, do a 4-hour round trip to go pick them up from the airport? That's like a really cool, a nice gesture. But it was awesome because all these people, there is definitely a language barrier. Thankfully, a lot of them knew English, but it was amazing to see.
Cześć,
Yeah, it was amazing to see how the interest and the hobby has no language bounds.
Yeah.
There's still people that are getting the same parts as you, that
Hmm.
are building the same whoops as you, that are flying and practicing and have the same experiences as you, and you can communicate with them, and maybe there's a few people that I communicated with that was like through another person that was able to speak English, and they would translate, and I was able to have pretty normal regular conversations with them, and have a good experience talking to them and sharing some tips. I brought some 3D prints, I brought some of my camera mounts and some other stuff, and was able to share that around, and kind of see all that.
And you placed on the podium.
Yeah, and I got second place, but it was
You got second
Yeah,
place?
and I got second
Wow.
place out of 75 pilots. No big deal.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So
But
while you're in Poland, please tell me you had pierogi and kielbasa. But what did you eat a pierogi while you were there?
I did. Yep, we had pierogies.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite one that you had?
I had this one that was like it was like I think it was a chicken and cheese pierogi with like some potato in it. It was really good. And it had there's like this garlic
Yes.
sauce. It was like comfort food, and that was the best part. It
Yes.
was like, we need
I
more
only-
of this in America.
Yeah, I only asked because I have a big Polish heritage, like Slav life. I was curious about that. But
Yeah. Yep. But
Hell yeah.
we had a really good time. The race is one thing, but the best part about tiny hoop racing, in my opinion, it is in the after hours. We have what we call a whoop house, which is an Airbnb that basically as many people as we can fit in the Airbnb. We all kind of split it up. So at Whooptopia, we've got this Spanish castle this year, and there's like 40 or like a ridiculous number of people. And okay, so you three are going to sleep in that room. You three, you two are going to share a bed in that room. There's 3 couches right there. You guys can sit in the couch, sleep in the couch. Oh yeah, you want that closet down there? Yep. Okay, that'll be $20 a night. Oh yeah, there's a shed back there. All right, yeah, you could stay in there.
Someone
for
sleeping in the
$50 a night,
bathtub.
Oh my god,
Exactly.
that's hilarious.
Exactly.
Wow.
But not only is the party scene there, and not everybody's into that, but it's the party scene's there. That's fun, but it's just a bunch of people that are all kind of going on this experience of going to a big tiny whoop event, and they're fixing all their stuff frantically because they broke it all during qualifying, and they're all messing around, having a good time. Everybody brings
That's
some
what's
random
cool
drones
about the
that they want to
drone
do
community.
challenges with.
Yeah.
There's one that had one Airbnb that had a pool, and we did like a landing challenge on the landing pad in the middle of the pool, and stuff like that. I don't know, just stuff like that. And if you don't know Jesse personally, like Jesse is just the biggest bad influence when it comes to like expending your whoops. And I had a race
Gee,
whoop
I
one
wonder
time
why.
that I one-way whooped and just never saw it again. All just because Jesse talked me into it.
His video of like sticker bombing everybody at a tiny whoop race, that I was laughing the entire time of like
Yeah,
how
that was
nonchalant
hilarious.
he was like sneaking up to people and like just putting stickers on them. Like
That happens without fail at every single race. Every single race.
I met
that's
him.
just the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you go ahead.
I met him at the International Open in 2019, and nicest guy. Like he was like, "Do you need anything?" Like they had the tent set up with all the obstacles and stuff, and he was just catering to everybody. I mean, I don't think he took a minute to himself. I mean, anybody that came up and asked him a question or talked to him, I mean, he would just talk their ears off. He's a super nice guy. So
Yeah, super down to earth. Yep. But that kind of culture existed out in Poland as well. We were able to kind of get shown around the city by the locals there. Went to a Polish bar, had some Polish beers, and kind of got to kick back and relax with the guys. Did some gorilla whooping around Poland. Flew inside the bar.
Hell yeah.
All the typical tiny hoop shenanigans are just as much alive and well in Poland as they are here in the States, which is
That's so
super
awesome.
super cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So, who is your all-time favorite pilot, and then who is like an underrated pilot, someone that you think more people should watch, or someone that you're just keeping tabs on?
Okay, yeah, sure. My all-time favorite pilot, I think, is got to be Agilis. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Agilis FPV. He's kind of dormant now, but he was one of the pilots that really inspired me to become faster in whoop racing. And he flew angle mode, which was interesting in a time where all the pilots were switching to acro mode in tiny whoop racing. But he hosted local races out in Indianapolis with the Indy Whoop Racers. And I would go out to his races whenever I could. I don't know if he still owns a cabinet shop. I'm pretty sure he just still does. It was like 2 years ago. But it'd be a really tight venue, but you could see why he was so good at racing, because we'd race like through all these different little rooms and stuff. And he was one of the fastest guys, one of the most down to earth, cool dude, and would always be willing to even lend you a backup whoop if you had any form of issue with your rig or anything like that. Super hospitable. And he was one of those people that is like, you meet someone that's really fast, and he wasn't cocky about it. He didn't treat it like it was his full-time job and he was taking it seriously. There's a lot of pilots that do that in racing, even in whoop racing.
Yeah.
And the reality of it, and the quicker that you kind of come to terms with this, the better. But the reality of it is that you're never going to quit your day job through tiny whoop race. And so don't take it too seriously, to the point where you're making enemies, or you're trying to go out and be like, I'm gonna beat you, and make hurt feelings over it. So Agilus is the one guy that I looked up to the most, and I honestly never thought that I would be as fast as him. I still don't know if I am, but I know I've come a long way, and I think a lot of just talking with him and talking about racing, and just he was always encouraging me to practice, and I think that's that's what we say. It's all about stick time in the hobby. Let's see.
Yeah.
As for an underrated pilot, I'm gonna let me think about that one for a second.
I wanted to push back a second. I can totally relate to what you're talking about. I just started a few months ago hosting a weekly tiny whoop race where I live in northeastern Indiana, and it's in a barn. It's a RC drift track that a friend of mine owns in his barn, pole barn out behind his house, and he's got propane heaters in there. And I go in and we set up a track, and no, none of us are that good. So like, we do have like the track record and whatnot, but the big thing I've been pushing is like, we're not here to see who comes in first. Your goal is to beat your time from last week, and so like it's all about the progression. But the last few weeks that I've been there, I've noticed like I don't spend as much time flying because I'm usually loaning out my whoops to people that are coming in. They drive. I had guys drive all the way from Indianapolis, which is like 2 hours from me. They drove all the way up, and one of them's his quad wasn't working, so I was like, here, just rip mine for the night. And so like, I totally get where he's coming from. If I had a whole fleet, I would just loan them all out to people. But it's been fun. It's definitely challenging, especially with the winter, like having the motivation to go out and set up the track. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, just like trying to push our own times and get faster.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
That's
nowhere
what it's all
near
about.
like on your guys' level. Like
No, that's what it's all about. And
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I watch
yeah,
you at Daps, and I'm just
and
like
count
unreal.
me in, dude. I would love to make it out to one of your races, man. I mean, I regularly make a sometimes 3 hour drive in between Cincinnati and Columbus, a lot for races. But again, I actually have family up in Michigan. We kind of drive through like Fort Wayne area, up
Yeah, that's where I live. Is near Fort Wayne.
into southern. Okay, cool. So like there could be a time where I can make it out. I'd love to. I'm sure I could convince Gaps to come out with me too.
Hell yeah.
I've been asking him if he's been saying he wants to come out, and I'm also like, just know that when you show up here, you're just gonna smash the leaderboard. And yeah, when I watch you guys race, to me it's unreal. And I'm an old guy. I've been flying FPV for 7 years, but I just don't think I'll ever have the reaction time that you guys have. I don't understand how you guys do it.
That's a defeatist attitude.
You seem to no.
You can do it.
There's stuff that I have done with a drone that I know other people can't do with a drone. But what he does with a drone, I know I can't without countless hours that I don't have of practice. But some of the stuff that you guys do, just the way you like are navigating through gates, the way you're set up for the next gate before you're even through the one before it, I'm just like, my brain can't process the information that fast. I can't do it,
But yeah, but that's exactly where I was at. Like I said, I'm a few years into this, and in terms of like taking it seriously, and you're right. It does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of dedication. But this is the exact same kind of feeling I had when I was again getting really close with Agilus, and talking to him about racing a lot. Is how do you do it? How do you get that fast? But it really comes with that practice, but also as you kind of understand the way that the racing line works and how making all the maneuvers, ladders, and corkscrews, and all the other common racing maneuvers, as well as how to set up a whoop or a racing drone in any form for that matter, with a higher camera angle and with a increasing starting at a lower rate, and as you get more comfortable, increasing it up to get higher. That stuff comes. So I've been right there. Of course, I was kind of more in a position to put that grind time in, and get faster. But yeah, it does come with time, and I've seen people go from never touched a drone before to right on my level in just a season, if they have that much time. So
My
I guess for anybody watching, that's the big thing is that I come from the type of I did like sports in high school and stuff, and I had a lot of friends that were a lot better than me at sports. And I was friends with the soccer star and the basketball star and stuff, and it was just like, okay, like I really wish I could be that person, but I just wasn't as athletic or wasn't as driven or whatever.
So,
But
do you
yeah,
think
it
that
all
pushes you harder
comes in.
nowadays? Like, like almost like comparing those people to you in your mind. Like, is that what pushes you? What pushes you to want to be better? Just like every day when it comes to drones. Like, what's the end goal for you?
Yeah, and that's something that's really dangerous. I had a time a few months ago, actually. It was kind of towards the end of this past season. I had a really good last season, and I was able to I was able to podium a lot, and I was able to win a few races, and I was really happy with how I did. But I still wasn't the fastest, and it was I kind of got stuck in a rut where I was like, I want to be the best, but I was starting to lose the fun of it, and I forgot why I was here. I forgot all the stuff that's behind me is, I was having a great time, and the money that I was putting in, I wasn't seeing the value coming back out of it. And so I think that's the most dangerous thing in this hobby is taking it too seriously, especially starting to compare yourself to others.
mhm.
And like I think that's something with FPV Gaps and I that I've experienced is like, and I know it goes both ways, but it's where you see someone that's really fast and you see someone that's maybe has learned something new. You practiced with them last week and you were beating them, and now they made a change and they there's something about it, and now they're faster than you. They can get around this one section of the track quicker or something like that. And I just learned that personally I'm not the type of person that's like I want to beat everybody and I want to be the fastest person ever. I kind of want to be up there and be
Mhm.
quick. It's not to say that I won't, work hard to be quick in that sense, but I feel that the game of comparison is extremely dangerous, especially when you think about the mindset in the hobby. And
I
I was
totally
just,
agree.
yeah, it's even and I bet it kind of goes into freestyle as well, where
Yeah,
you want
like
to
Yeah,
kind of build that skill.
I'm
you can
Um,
see like I all the time I'm like, man, that pilot fucking rips, and I'm like, I want to do that, and then like but the thing is I've always like throughout my entire life I've never taken anything seriously. If you've ever watched any of my YouTube videos, it's really hard to see me be like, all right, we're gonna do this because it's impossible. I can't. I'm like laughing about it now because it's so absurd in my mind. Like I can't take it seriously, but like I do try to always like my current thing right now is to try to I want to try to do like one battery where I just fucking nail it the whole time. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but I don't not post it. Like it doesn't not I like don't take it out of the video or like cut it up. Like so I've been doing this thing for a while now where like I've had some like the video that's coming out on Sunday. I don't think it's my best freestyle rip I've ever done, but it's what I had and like it's still good, but it's not like the end all be all. And I try to like another thing I try to do too is I try to like be an outreach to other people. I try to show them like that it's not you don't have to be a Mr. Steel. You don't have to be a T-Dog. You can just have fun and that is what's most important. And look,
Yeah.
I'm not that great. I'm not like a super good pilot by any means, but like as long as you're having fun, like that is what's most important. I think a lot of people recognize that and see that. Like, I'm not like trying to be a fake person. I'm trying to be someone I'm not. I'm not trying to be like, look how good I am. I'm so good. You suck. Here's 10,000 tricks that I named. Like, nah. Like, all that's
Yeah.
nonsense. If you're having fun, that's what's most important.
I
So
will.
like, it's really good that you said that, because that honestly, I was like, there's not a lot of people that can be self-aware of that and just be
Yeah.
like, yo, like it's dangerous to start going down that path, because like, yes, you take things too seriously. Because I used to race mini Z RC cars, and I got out
Yeah.
of it because I was so sick of watching like 60-year-old men like literally almost get into fistfights over this shit. And I'm like, yo, like, and they don't even have YouTube channels or anything. I'm like, yo, guys, we're having fun. We're playing with toys, like hobby grade toys, mind you, but like this is supposed to be fun. And I was like, I can't handle. I literally, I'll never forget it. These two guys were literally got in a fight, a fist fight. A 65-year-old man and like a 56-year-old man. Little tiny cars. Like, you're cheating, blah blah blah. And I was like, yes. In my head, I looked at it and I was like, nope, I'm
I
never
think
coming back.
I think
You know.
what's really cool about freestyle compared to racing is that there's no standardization of anything. With racing, there's a very clear set goal: be fast, right? But when it comes to freestyle, you've got pilots that prioritize flow, and pilots that prioritize being technical, and pilots that prioritize just hitting crazy gaps or just doing like nuts stuff. And so that's something I've been telling people this for years. It's like when someone says like, "Oh, like you're this video I didn't think," it's like you got to understand, to the person that went out flying, they thought it and did it, and it's like the most freeing thing. It doesn't matter if it was as flowy as you personally would like, or if they didn't do as many left turns as they did right turns, or whatever the case, whatever your critique is going to be of this person's freestyle video. At the end of the day, it's freestyle. It's whatever they want it to be. It's whatever is fun for them. If they were just cruising along a beach and did a flip at some point and they were like, "Woo, that was crazy, guys!" Like, that's fine. That's for them. And so like I can definitely tell that being in a racing mindset, it would be a lot easier to fly that close to the sun, of like constantly comparing yourself and wanting to be better and better. I've never really compared myself to other FPV pilots. I've never really thought I was super good or better than other pilots. I've always wanted to just be better
I'm
than
better
myself.
than try again.
That's literally, but
Yeah.
that's, I know that joke's hilarious, but that's literally the name. I mean, I would just go out, and I had this thing, and there's a couple guys that used to fly. They don't fly around me anymore, but they used to make fun of me because instead of like spending the day just like ripping the whole spot, I would like get stuck on like trying this one thing, and I would do it battery after battery after battery, and I would go back the next day battery after battery until I did it in my mind the way I wanted it in my mind. And I was already called try again, but that's like why. I mean, I've done that in all my hobbies. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
I
For
think
sure.
what's our I think we're nearing the end
Oh,
of
we're
our
over.
time
We're
slot
over, but
here.
I'm having fun. So
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
he hasn't even told us a joke yet.
I was literally just going to ask him. So we have a tradition on the podcast where you have to tell us a joke. So tell us a joke.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
now,
man.
You're really putting me
Yeah,
on the
man.
spot
I'm
here.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
got really serious for a second.
Time to
Yeah.
tell us a
You are
joke.
really putting me on the spot here. Oh
Yep,
man.
this is the theme.
I don't know.
Because
I'm kind of in
everyone
the
says,
same
"You're
spot
really
where I
putting me
was
on the
with
spot."
the underrated pilot, which I never answered.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say I'll answer that first. The underrated pilot that I have in my mind is a pilot named J4Y is his pilot name. He's out in
Day for a
Sacramento.
while.
And he's been loop racing for a while. And I feel like he's always kind of gotten like he's in the top, 16 or whatever pilots. But I feel like he flies kind of under the radar a little bit, and he's super cool dude. And yeah, he's the guy that when I hang
Say
out with
his
him,
name one more time, just so.
J4.
J4Y is his
J4Y.
pilot handle, but his name's Jay.
Y'all go check him out.
And
J4.
yeah, he'll be at Wootopia this year, but he's a super hardworking guy, race director, and I see a lot of things like we're talking about where it's like he's really good at controlling the mindset, keeping things fun, keeping it fresh, and being a good community member as well. Let's see. Okay, a joke.
Tell us a joke
Dad
before
jokes
I
that
fall
you've heard
asleep.
recently?
Okay. Dad jokes.
Once
You
you
guys are
once
really putting me on the
Any
listen,
spot
funny
here.
Tell us
joke.
listen.
whatever. You have
As
to tell us a joke.
as
It's
a
a tradition.
as a father
It's a
to two
tradition.
children, once you start telling dad jokes, it's a slippery slope, my friend. Okay,
Oh, okay.
just know
Noted.
that.
Okay.
Tell you got you. There's you have
Okay.
to.
Okay. What is
Don't think
green
about it.
and has 4 legs and will kill you if it fell out of a tree?
Green,
Try again.
4 legs. Okay, uh, a hippopotamus painted green.
Nah.
Green
I
and
mean,
Pool
I'm
table.
not
a
wrong.
pool table.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Was it a
You
pool
think
table? Is that what you
800 pounds would kill
Yeah, it's a pool
anybody?
table. Yeah, obviously it's a pool table. Come on.
I thought he was gonna say an
That was
alligator
the-
or something.
that was the best joke I think we've heard so far.
That was a good joke. That was a good joke.
There you go.
All right, and then the last question, and this is gonna be a tough one for you because you're not as freestyly as we are, but we ask all of our guests to name the next FPV trick. FPV freestylers are like always coming up with weird stuff. A lot of pilots name tricks after themselves, or everybody's got a different name for a trick. What do you think the next trick is going to be called? You don't even have to describe it.
He does fly
Just what is it
5-inch,
going to be
okay?
called?
Okay.
You
Okay.
don't,
Well.
you don't
Okay.
have
So
to
first things
describe.
first.
You
You
don't have
guys
to
will be
describe
proud of
what it
me.
is, but
I just built this thing up a few months ago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I got
Beautiful.
myself a little O3 action going on.
Oh yeah.
Went the full route. I figured
HD
that
route.
I fly HD0 for racing, but I figured HD is not quite good enough for the level of freestyle I want to
Get
do.
the premium.
Got to get the premium.
and toilet tank, forever.
Yep. Yeah. It's a
Toilet tank
Vanny
forever.
style
Yep,
frame.
that's what I fly now too.
But yeah, so I'm trying to get back into freestyle. I think that and I'll kind of tangent off for a second, but the biggest thing that is important, at least in my opinion, for the RC hobby, is that you expand it out to as many areas as possible to not only avoid burnout in one certain area. I feel like
Mhm.
I've, especially recently, kind of felt a little bit more burnout in whoop racing and in tiny whoops in general, just because I've been working at Tiny Whoop, and it's literally been something I do in the after hours, but also I go into
24
work and
hours a day.
bam, Tiny Whoops again.
Yeah.
So it's to avoid burnout. You already have the radio, you already have the expensive stuff, so
Why not
expanding
try something
around
else?
to
Yeah.
I built a 7-inch too with that system, which is awesome.
Oh,
Did some
nice.
long ranging in the Rockies when I was out in Colorado, which
Beautiful.
was
Sick.
cool. But I would say, yeah, so that's the biggest thing. And also for RC airplanes too, you already have the most expensive part, which is the transmitter. And so
Yep.
if are looking for your next thing, flight test airplanes are super, super
Flight test
inexpensive.
airplane
And
with
What?
FPV. Yep.
You don't,
www.flighttest.com.
and
Hey,
you don't
Peter
even
Streetpole,
you don't even necessarily need
like this podcast.
you don't even necessarily need to like get the kits either. Like the plans for a lot of the planes are available. Like for me, I just printed them out and tiled them up, cut out templates on poster board, and did it all myself. So
Yep.
like the kits are
exactly.
definitely a lot easier. If you're building your first plane, I would recommend getting the kit. You're gonna spend a little bit of money on it, but it's already scored and everything for you, so the building is gonna be a lot less. It's easy to make mistakes your first build, especially
Yeah.
cutting bevels on on control surfaces. But
Yeah, and but the
Totally.
biggest thing is that it's impossible to make a mistake building a flight test plane that is not easily fixed with packing tape or glue.
it's gonna fly. It's gonna fly. It's not gonna
Yep.
be a museum piece, but it's gonna fly.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I would say those kits are absolute. They are super expensive for what you're actually getting.
They are really, except
it's
for
like $1 sheet of foam for
yeah.
$40
I
or
will
whatever.
I will say the Sky FX ones do look pretty cool. I had thought about maybe getting one just because I like the fact that they're already like all the details are already printed on them, so they look really
What?
nice. But
But
then
what?
again, like
Wait.
so does spray paint in a little time, so it's like,
hmm
I honestly only go to the dollar store and I get the little balsa wood planes and I put my FPV camera on there. That's all you need. It's only $1.
have you ever built
fly
a
it
flight test plane, Spider?
if you fly it. No,
You
but
should do it.
I was curious
You should
about
do it.
what you're gonna name. Well, I'm gonna What was I gonna say?
The next FPV trick is flight test planes are too expensive. Roll.
The next
that's
FPV
it.
trick is flight test planes are too expensive.
Okay, so back on topic. Sorry, I totally derailed it. Okay, so the I think that there's gonna be a little bit more of a 3D, revolution. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been, Nightwing and T-Dog have been getting into 3D heli stuff. And by the way, those are absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen a. Oh my.
Agreed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
we need to ban
you get
all
hit by one of
3D
those things, you are
helicopters tomorrow.
dead.
Yeah. My buddy Ryan has one, and he was like, and I was like, get that away from me.
Yep, exactly. Whenever someone else is flying one, I'm standing right behind them. And I'm like,
dude, I wouldn't even be standing behind them. I would be standing in the next town over. I don't trust those things at all.
It's crazy, especially with the big ones. Like if you get hit by one of those, you are dead. You are dead.
There's literally a story of a guy who was flying his helicopter in Central Park in New York, and they found him. Not to be grotesque or morbid, but they found this guy dead. And they're like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And it turns out that he was flying his helicopter alone, boop, 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 zip bop, out, and it crashed. And the force from the crash sent the the rotor blade perfectly into his neck. And he just bled out and died. Alone.
Yep. Oh, wow. No, I literally there was a dude, and it might have been the same guy, but I met a guy that said he lived in New York or something, and I think he was in Ohio, or he was moved out to Ohio because his best friend that he flew helicopters with died in a RC helicopter accident.
And I met him. The same guy.
It's probably the same guy. I don't know, but I met him at an RC field where he was.
Comment below if your best friend. No, I'm just kidding. That's.
I don't know.
We're about out of time for the podcast.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a 3D trick, though. Whatever it is,
3D trick.
It's going to be some sort of inspired, I don't know what you call those, like TikTok helicopter move. But yeah, that's
3D drone.
With the FPV freestyle drone, they're gonna make it dynamic in some sort of way that looks good.
Be the
all right, move? You heard it here first, folks. Documented. It's gonna be some kind of TikTok dance. Craze trend.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
dance craze.
Custom FPV. Right. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Thanks so much for coming on, man.
This isn't a very professional podcast, but we just want to highlight.
This is super professional. This is a super professional podcast.
We just want to highlight and introduce people that in the industry that we think are super cool, and maybe 9 to 12 people are going to see it, and that's what we like to hear.
And it was really
so
cool
much for having me on.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for telling. That was really awesome. All the stories and everything. We really appreciate it. But I gotta go take a massive shit. So I'm literally about to poop on my couch right now.
That's his FPV trick.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you for being on. Thank you, my co-hosts. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you made it this far, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Warning. Thanks, Try
This
again.
podcast is sponsored by whatever that pharmaceutical company was.
This podcast is sponsored by Marlboro cigarettes.
CNHL and GemFan.
Until the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Whoop.
Yo, we flying through the internet. We got low battery, but we ain't landing yet. Spider sugar, wanting to try. We interview guests while they rip the sky. Drones, jokes, and special guests. Power loops, car spins, cash and checks. We doing Rubik's cubes like we riding a bike. This is the Land Now podcast, and I'm dropping the mic.